You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. What's giddy? Mic check, let's go. It's a me, your Reformed Stoic. Oh, what's up, my gang? How's everybody feeling today? Got my coffee. Drank a sugar-free Rockstar this morning. This is my second caffeine drink of the day. Had a peanut butter and honey sandwich. And we are about ready to get it. All right, let's do it. Boom. How are we doing today, folks? How are we doing today? So, somebody was asking about the camping trip. I never actually, slept out there. I just went out and visited at the campsite. Do I have the water? Wrinkles is already testing me. Let's go. Where did I put that water? Let me go grab that real quick. 1 second. Wrinkles. Don't do that. Okay. Wrinkles is rubbing her adorable little head on the microphone stand. So yeah, I rode four-wheelers a little bit, had a hot dog and a bratwurst, smoked some cigs with people out of town. As of now, I don't have any cigs, and I also don't have any marijuana. My cope of choice for the time being is going to be 2 caffeine drinks a day. Sorry about the little break in the podcast action. Family was visiting, as I just said. As of now, the schedule is going to be Monday through Friday. Saturdays and Sundays are open to whatever. Maybe I'll just do regular streams on those days or not. And I might also do some regular streams after my podcast streams. So, today, we got an interesting show for you. We're going to cover the Metaverse a little bit, Facebook Meta, a little bit about the Pentagon, talking about UFOs, a little bit about Project Bluebeam, and a little bit on the Antichrist. Alrighty then. So without further ado, let me take you to the news segment. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic news segment. Let's go! All right, folks. Let's go ahead and get right back into it. The Metaverse will reshape our lives. Let's make sure it's for the better. Let's live it for a better tomorrow. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission reports that in the first 6 months of 2022, the word Metaverse appeared in regulatory filings more than 1,100 times. Wow, that's a lot of times. The previous year saw 260 mentions. The preceding 2 decades, fewer than a dozen in total. it increasingly feels as though every corporate executive feels the need to mention the metaverse, and of course, how it naturally fits the capabilities of their company better than those of their competitors. Few seem to explain what it is or exactly what they'll build. The executive class also appears to disagree over fundamental aspects of this new platform, including the criticality of virtual reality headsets, blockchains, and crypto, as well as whether it's here now, might be soon, or it's decades in the future. So all I really know at this point about Metaverse is that you wear a VR headset and you're inside of some connected internet world. I can only imagine what kind of innovations will be coming with this. There will probably be some sort of metaverse. This is what I imagined the other day, okay? You walk around and it's like a picture of you. So like you have a selfie that's just like walking around in a room so people can see who they are. So there's some sort of like a dating app where you're all in a club and you're a selfie. Like maybe you're a guy with like a computer screen head and then it's projecting a selfie. So you could like be getting mogged at some club. It's probably going to be really uncomfortable, dude. Basically, just chiming in with the black pill perspective. It's not going to get any better for those kind of people, dude. You're still going to get mogged. I just imagine like walking around in some virtual bar and there's like a virtual Chad face. Like, what's up, brah? You having a lot of luck? I just got 10 dates, brah. You're probably not because you look like a beta. Let's go. Anyway, let's move on. None of which has constrained investment. Much has been written of Facebook's name change to Meta and the more than $10 billion it now loses each year on its metaverse initiative. So it's losing $10 billion a year. This must be very important to them because it's not about making money. I've heard in the past that Netflix doesn't make any money either. There's all kinds of things out there that don't make money, and that's a bad sign. That means that they really want you taking part of it in it at all costs. Money's not a motive. But another 6 of the largest public companies in the world, Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tencent, all great people. They're very great people. Have also been busy preparing for the metaverse. They are reorganizing internally, rewriting their job descriptions, reconstructing their product offerings, and prepping multi-billion-dollar product launches. In January, Microsoft announced the largest acquisition in big tech history, paying $75 billion for gaming giant Activision Blizzard. Aha, Blizzard, they did StarCraft and Warcraft, which would provide building blocks for the metaverse. In total, McKinsey & Company estimates that corporations, private equity companies, and venture capitalists made $120 billion in metaverse-related investments during the first 5 months of this year. Are we going to check it out, boyos? Are we going to get up in the metaverse? Maybe Wolfgang should take that shit over, man. It could be cozy, you guys. There could be aspects of it that are cozy. I mean, I'm sure there's all kind of things you can do on there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, everybody's seen the image of the guy in his empty ass apartment, like with nothing but his metaverse goggles. You will own nothing and be happy. It's kind of headed in that direction, I'm afraid. Nearly all of the aforementioned work has, thus far, remained invisible to the average person. Rather like the metaverse itself, there isn't really a metaverse product we can go buy, nor metaverse revenue be found on an income statement. In fact, it might seem as though the metaverse, to the extent it ever existed, has already come and gone. Crypto has crashed. So too has Facebook's market capitalization, which topped $900 billion when the company changed its name to Meta. Now it sits around $445 billion. Yikes, so they're hemorrhaging money over this thing. This year, the video gaming sales have fallen by nearly 10%, due in part to the end of the pandemic that forced many people inside. Yeah, this is a Time magazine article, by the way. Into the metaverse. The next digital era will change everything. This is going to be us, boyos. We that guy now. It looks pretty soy. I'm thinking it looks pretty soy. It's a good thing that the metaverse seems to be sputtering. The largest tech platforms have already established enormous influence over our lives, as well as the technologies and business models of the modern economy. It's also clear that there are many problems with today's internet. Why not solve them before moving on to what Mark Zuckerberg calls the successor to it? The answer is embedded in that very question. The metaverse, a 30-year-old term but nearly century-old idea, is forming around us. Every few decades, a platform shift occurs, such as that from mainframes to PCs and the internet, or the subsequent evolution to mobile and cloud computing. Once a new era has taken shape, it's incredibly difficult to alter who leads it and how. But between eras, those very things usually do change. If we hope to build a better future, then we must be as aggressive about shaping it as are those who are investing to build it. We gotta get aggressive about the metaverse. Everybody buy one. Mark Zuckerberg's losing money, guys. No more Facebook, friendos. We need Mark Zuckerberg. We need the metaverse. Let's get out there. Let's get out there in the metaverse. So probably some of the stuff you can do on this thing is like, let's see, there's going to be dating, social avenues. Like you can basically go to a club in the metaverse. You can go bowling in the metaverse. You can do like anything there. Play games together. I mean, I've already seen like VR. There was already VR stuff Metaverse. I've seen videos of like people telling stories when they're like a bunny rabbit or a Disney character or something in the Oculus headset or whatever it's called. I never really knew much about that stuff, but it seems like Facebook's taking it to a new level. All right, well, we got the man himself here. Explain the metaverse. Everything you need to know about the future of the internet. March 22nd, 2022. Let's flip and go.
In July 2021, Mark Zuckerberg staked Facebook's future on the metaverse. To prove he was serious, he renamed the company Meta and promised to spend billions of dollars to rebuild a metaverse platform. He isn't alone. Other companies are also working on their plans for the metaverse, the expected next iteration of the internet. The metaverse is difficult to define. It's usually described as online spaces where people socialize, work, and play as avatars, digital representations of their identities. Unlike a Zoom chat, the spaces don't disappear when you're done. They're there for someone else to use. Though it's often name-checked in the tech world, the metaverse is still a fuzzy idea for people outside the industry.
I mean, the metaverse is clearly a term of great currency in this moment in time. And I think for right now, 2022, the metaverse is a story we are telling about what the future of technical infrastructures might look like when you combine virtual reality, augmented reality, high-speed internet connections, and some kind of notion of a virtual space you might occupy with other people.
I feel like a lot of the people who talk shit about this, like, oh my gosh, this is the Antichrist, the beast system's going to be in there, it's evil, how could they do this, I'll never do it. I feel like a lot of those people are going to be like using this thing all the time in 5 years from now. Because it just seems like it might not be a bad cope, dude. I'm not saying it'll be me necessarily, but realistically, boyos, where exactly are our lives headed? Like, so many people are just living these down bad, empty-ass lives. And I don't know, dude. Maybe somehow something will be good about this, or probably not, bro. The world is becoming a very dark, sad place. I'm sad now.
People. So an easy answer to the metaverse is, well, it's, the next version of the future of computing. The more complicated answer is, of course, it's a story about how we imagine the world.
Soy.
Meta and other companies tout the metaverse as an evolution of the internet, a virtual world that parallels our lives in the real world. But it's an idea that's been tossed around for decades and tried before.
One of the other ways to think about the metaverse is that it's always and already existed in different pockets of the world, right? So whether you were someone engaging in gaming experiences, whether those were multiplayer games or whether those were deeply immersive games, if you were engaging in other kinds of online communities. There's an argument to say that the metaverse is already here, it just wasn't called that.
Roblox and Minecraft have been building virtual worlds for years. Second Life, Fortnite, Minecraft, and other games all incorporate aspects of virtual, augmented, or mixed reality to create an immersive gaming experience for users. If you're unfamiliar with the term, virtual reality refers to entirely digital spaces that are accessed through hardware like the Oculus headset. These headsets use special lens technology, cameras, and motion tracking controllers to fully immerse you in their digital worlds, where objects can seem real even when they aren't. Augmented reality is a related but different technology. AR brings digital objects into the real world, often with no headset required, though there are some AR headsets on the market. Some experts see augmented reality as a gateway to broader acceptance of the metaverse.
The technology has continued to advance and continued to find touch points in all of our lives, whether it's through mobile phones connected to the internet or other forms of connectivity, smart TV, all those sort of pieces of the puzzle.
Advances in software have introduced users to more realistic experiences through higher levels of fidelity, the degree of real-world exactness that's digitally reproduced. However, critics say more work is needed in order for the technology to deliver the fidelity the metaverse needs.
It can be easy to get carried away in like this nirvana state of what's being sold to us, but we need to think about what's right in front of us right now. We're now starting to see some metaverses being made available on mobile platforms, as well as through even the web browser. So we're starting to see a shift towards accessibility. That also comes typically at the cost of fidelity.
Beyond the technical aspects of the metaverse, another area of concern is who builds and controls the metaverse, a corporate version of the metaverse, one that's built by existing tech companies.
Why don't they have legs? I have no legs. I have no legs. You ever seen kids?
Risks repeating problems that already plague social media, some people worry. Bias, bullying, misinformation, and harassment could even be magnified in the metaverse because it's an immersive environment.
It's one thing to send 180 characters to somebody over Twitter, and another thing entirely to bully somebody in a metaverse type space where your brain has tricked you into feeling like you're really there. That's, I think, the potential for abuse in the metaverse, that the argument that maybe we need to get ahead of.
Dude, imagine cancel culture in the metaverse. Be like, hey, look who it is. It's Reformed Stoic. I'll be trying to hang out at some soy metaverse bar, and then I'll get surrounded by a bunch of, there'll be feds and glows in there, and bro, just imagine all the possibilities. Think of all the possibilities. But yeah, cancel culture in there will be bad. You probably won't be welcome there if you're certain kinds of people, and they'll have things set up so you can't protect your identity to certain levels of people. You're not welcome. Let's go.
This.
Other critics believe that user-generated content will be the building blocks of the metaverse, like current and previous iterations of virtual platforms, like the game Second Life. But even in Second Life, larger entities like corporations and businesses still had a hand in shaping the space.
I'm not sure it's as straightforward as saying it's either large tech companies or it's user-generated. I think it's usually a little bit of drift between both of those things. And I think that underscores the role of governments in all of this and the role of sort of social institutions.
Whether the metaverse will come together as a single platform is an open question. Right now, industry standards don't exist for the metaverse. That means big companies are competing to lay the foundation.
We're going to do TikTok dances in the metaverse. Yay. Wow, dude. There's such a flavor to this new Zoomer era, and it's just so disappointing. I'm going to see if the weed store is still open, dude. I might go to the weed store after this. I don't know if I can handle it. I don't need cigs, but I might need the weed, boyos.
Will have to follow, a pattern that was established with the development of the internet.
One of the really interesting facets of the metaverse, and of calling this constellation of technologies and experiences as the metaverse, is that it creates the opportunity to build a platform. And the thing about platforms is that if you build them right, which is usually open and with standards, you can move things between pieces of the platform. So, when we think about the internet, whilst we may experience it via a particular service provider or a particular device, the underlying architecture of it is such that it can be delivered in lots of different places.
Zuckerberg, arguably Metaverse's biggest champion, says interoperability among applications is crucial to get people to use the Metaverse. That means companies will need to collaborate so people using the Metaverse can move freely between platforms and experiences. For instance, if you have an avatar in Meta's Metaverse, ideally, you should be able to use the same avatar when moving to a Microsoft platform. That, however, is easier said than done.
If you're familiar with the Roblox style Lego.
Roblox, let's go! Now a woman will love me because I'm a Roblox LARPer. Yeah, weed store is open late, dude. I'm gonna fucking pick up weed after this. Let's get it.
Like experience. Compare that to something like Fortnite. Trying to take your character, just take it over to Fortnite and make it work there. It just wouldn't work. You actually need to have two completely different iterations or models of your avatar. That's where I think fundamentally there are just straight up challenges that exist because no two metaverses really are delivering, a common experience.
Qualcomm, Nvidia, Valve, Epic, HTC, and Apple are among the companies working on Metaverse.
So what if there's like another pandemic? What if there's like a strain or monkeypox and it becomes so absolutely terrible that we're all forced to use this? It's like you have to use this to go to the DMV. You have to use this to go to school. We'll probably be able to like take classes inside of this, virtual classrooms. It'll get to a point where like we have to have one of these. We might start living in like a socialist type of deal where we all get one for free. We all live in like commie block apartments. And doesn't the future just sound wonderful, guys? Yeah, I'm fucking buying weed after this.
Metaverse-like projects. How or when these projects develop is anyone's guess. Game and entertainment companies like Stageverse, which digitally reproduce concerts and festivals.
I think all the betas will be in here. Like all the betas and like the bottom 10% of women, and then all social things in real life will just be a bunch of Stacys and Chads. All the Stacys and Chads will be in the real world. It will be, you won't want to go outside anymore because it will just be Chad, Stacy harems everywhere.
Have been operating in a metaverse-like environment for years, but with more companies adopting a hybrid work model, the metaverse could also come to the world of work. A 2020 report from consultancy PwC predicts that nearly 23.5 million jobs worldwide will use AR and VR by 2030. The technology will be used for tasks like employee training, meetings, and customer service, according to PwC. The metaverse could also offer new economic opportunities, such as game creation, virtual retail.
You will be a Roblox Lego in the metaverse, and you will be happy.
Or digital asset trading. The virtual world could be a source of real money.
I think there's a good argument that over the long run, you could potentially create a new class of economic participants who could share in the upside of this new platform shift, right? Through maybe token economics, through game mechanics and so forth that you're already starting to see. But I think the metaverse is potentially a really lucrative place for creators to kind of populate this new world and make a great living doing so.
How widespread the metaverse becomes is in part dependent on how many people get on the internet. A little less than 2/3 of the world's population had access to the internet in 2021, according to the ITU. Without basic accessibility to the internet, widespread adoption among a global community of users will be a challenge. Companies building the metaverse will need to first see the digital divide is bridged if they want their virtual world to attract people from around the globe.
When I think about the metaverse, my hope for it is that we can be really mindful about what's happened when we've built large technology apparatus and infrastructure in the past, and that as a result, we go into this a little less naive and a little more deliberate about the choices we make. That also means as citizens, we have an obligation to hold the organizations in our lives accountable to the values that we care about.
It's unclear whether the metaverse will live up to the promises or fail to live up to the hype. What is clear? You're sure to be hearing more about the metaverse for years to come.
Yeah, and apparently people are spending money to like buy real estate inside of it. There's like a grid inside. There's a there's a world map basically, and you can like buy property in it, and people are already buying it all up. Sounds pretty cringe. Am I incorrect in assuming the metaverse is just VR brought to the mainstream? Yeah, I didn't see much about... I mean, I saw some videos of like people telling comfy stories inside of VR, but I didn't really know how that worked before. I love the metaverse. I'm also playing Metaverse game. It's Di-Fi Warrior. Yikes, dude. Good for you. Metaverse existed since the first multiplayer video games were born. Interesting. Ever want to live inside of a Call of Duty waiting room? Where a bunch of 11-year-old boys are calling you the N-word? A universe of 11-year-old boys calling you the N-word, dude. And drinking Rockstar. Let's go! Mysticism and technology has always intertwined. That's creepy. That's kind of creepy, dude. I wonder why they don't have legs. I feel like there's something symbolic about that. Like they're removing your ability to move or something. They're taking away your mobility. Yeah, all the avatars not having legs, that just seems to mean something, if you ask me. No more legs hype. You can't run. We're everywhere. Have you ever wondered how the bad guys of the Matrix got people in those pods and plugged in to start with? Yeah, this is the beginning of that. Dude, we're headed towards the Matrix pods. Yikes. Yikes. How the metaverse will revolutionize our lives. Just a few days ago. Let's get it.
When are our lives going to be, quote unquote, revolutionized?
Well, so we should keep in mind that these technological transformations do take decades. I'm glad that you emphasize that. The first wireless cell phone call in 1973, the first data-based wireless network 91, smartphones 92, the early 2000s, we get the first consumer media services on mobile devices, BlackBerries thereafter, the iPhone. Some way through the next decade, most of the world was running on mobile and cloud services. What's clear now is that the advent of real-time 3D, as we talk about it in industrial applications, the advent of XR in live patient surgery, and the fact that hundreds of millions of people, typically under the ages of 25, are all living in 3D worlds today.
So, not you or me yet, no offense. Talk to us then about how this is going to change our daily lives. For example, you're joining us now remotely. Would it seem like you were here in the studio in this new world?
That's certainly one element. We see this in particular emphasized by Meta, where they talk about the idea of co-location and presence in virtual space. But in some instances, we will just be using some of the devices we have right now, but we might be doing those in 3D, what we call volumetric displays or holography. You and I might be sitting thousands of miles apart, looking at a screen, but the actual presentation would be in 3D. And studies show that that has remarkable improvements on retention, engagement, nonverbal forms of communication.
Now, you've had your Metaverse ETF now going for several months. You've got, names like Meta in there, not surprising. Also Snap, which I found interesting because Snap's view of the Metaverse is so different from Meta's, where, Evan Spiegel has called Mark Zuckerberg's vision so hypothetical, and Snap is betting more on, more sort of augmented reality over real physical reality. And today, Snap unveiled a new web version of Snap, which almost seems like it's going backwards. How do we square these two visions?
The way that we square it is by ignoring the term altogether. It's helpful to talk about a new generation of the internet, but you'll find that because there's no concrete definition, some believe that it fundamentally requires crypto, others have VR-centric beliefs, others have augmented reality-centric beliefs. Under the classical definition, where we're talking about real-time 3D, all of those are likely to fit in one way, shape, or form. Evan might talk about augmented reality lenses. Mark Zuckerberg might talk about a virtual world with all of your other vision cut off. That's still 3D.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, it's like, damn, dude, this really does seem like the beginning of putting people in the Matrix. This is like the Matrix beta. This is like the beginning, bro. We're all going to be plugged in forever, unless it's worth it. Like, it's going to start with it not being worth it to be in the real world. Dude, this is like Vanilla Sky. It's like Vanilla Sky, where his life was disappointing, so he goes inside of the fucking simulation thing. And then at the end of the movie, he wants to leave it. Like, oh, man, we're going to live in a simulation. I'm freaking out, bros.
And they're still going to interconnect in some way, shape, or form.
Now, let's talk about how this changes the world of streaming. You know, you were a longtime former Amazon studio executive. You know, how does this change the way we watch and what we watch and how?
So this is a great example of the fact that we're already sitting in parts of this world today. Disney, of course, produced most of The Mandalorian using a game engine, a real-time 3D simulation engine. That meant that they could create the perfect sunset. They could hold that sunset in place. They can pull out the entirety of that virtual set, reshoot it in 5 years, or make it available to you and I on our Peloton, on a video game console, in virtual or augmented reality. That's one of the ways in which we're going to start to see entertainment change. You've seen that the Match CEO now comes from Zynga, and he, in his new role, is talking about the idea that you might be able to traipse Tatooine on a date rather than just play games from a smartphone.
Now, Netflix earnings are coming up. We've been talking a lot about the success of Stranger Things.
I still don't really understand what an NFT is. It's like a sticker that people buy for some reason, or it's like a little polygon Lego soy picture that people pay money for some reason that I don't understand. I don't know, dude. I'm starting to feel like a boomer pretty fucking fast, you guys. I'm starting to feel like a boomer pretty quick. All this modern shit is just kind of like, yikes. Over.
Which is not necessarily a surprise, even though it's scarier and more gruesome than the last 3 seasons. I'm still watching it. What would you bet is going to happen here? Do you think they're going to buck the trend that we saw earlier this year? Or are we going to see a slow degradation in the number of subscribers for a while?
It's clear by all streaming benchmarks that Stranger Things Season 4 was as exceptional as the fans hoped and in excess of what Netflix did. But also third-party analytics show that a lot of the subscriber additions are weaker than we would have hoped for, and in particular, churn looks worse. Antenna, a subscription analytics and data company, shows that Netflix now ranks second last in terms of subscriber retention after 30 days from sign-up. They're also at a 4-year high for the overall services churn and retention. And so the numbers basically say that even if it was a pretty strong quarter for ads, the churn elevation is likely to offset them and more.
Lord of the Rings, the new series, Jeff Bezos tweeted out the trailer last week. Do you think it's going to be a mega hit like Stranger Things has been for Netflix?
What the hell are they talking about? Why are they talking about Stranger Things and Lord of the Rings?
Stranger Things came out in 2016, and it's still breaking records 7 years later. Defining by that degree is going to take some time, but do I think that it's going to premiere to outstanding viewership globally, that it's going to cover the press, that it's going to be one of the most significant things that Amazon overall does in 22? Absolutely.
So what's your take on the overall tech market dynamics? You know, we've got this negative news out from Apple that they're going to slow down spending growth, that they're going to slow down hiring. Apple, you know, long considered a bellwether for consumer sentiment. Are you taking that as a signal, a bad signal for the rest of big tech for the foreseeable future?
It's not encouraging, certainly, when you take a look at how many other creators, founders, products, and services rely on the iPhone and the incremental improvements from every device refresh. None of that's good. But we're seeing this industry-wide, separate from Apple. The video game industry was down 19% year over year last month. Year to date, it's trending at 11% year over year. And so we're looking at a broad situation where consumer electronics, entertainment, leisure, high-end GPUs from NVIDIA are all getting compressed. The drop in the crypto markets is exacerbating that on a demographic basis.
Sweet. In spite of the economic fluctuation, I'm so excited I've been earning $45,000 from my $10,000 investment every day. 10 days. Can we consider it to be a revolution? Wondering what value it adds. It adds the value of escaping from this reality, but you're just going into their reality. No, I can't. I have to use these. You're the only one who complained. Sneeth, you have terrible taste. You should feel terrible. It's okay, though. Just beg for forgiveness, and I'll consider it. Let's get it. I mean, a thumbnail? Yeah, I could probably change the thumbnail. Sure. Sure, why not? Remember when we paid a flat fee for a complete game? Now it's thousands just for the characters, and we'll build the rest later. Alright, guys. Well, yep. Something about this is kind of depressing. I definitely think it has the potential to be the future because, well, the real future is pretty bleak. So it's an escape. They'll just keep building on it. They'll just keep building on it. Who knows how advanced it's going to get. It might get to a point where it kind of just looks, people look like people, everything looks regular, and then we'll live in a simulation. All right, moving on to the next topic. Pentagon UFO study led by a researcher who believes in the supernatural. Woo. It's fine, Sneeth. I overreacted. I'm sorry. I love you. Okay. Yeah, we've all seen this before. So Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 and now Angels and Airwaves, he's a big part of this company. Let's see if it says something about this photo. U.S. Navy aviator. Gimbal photo of the UFO. Yeah, Tom DeLonge was a part of that company, Reach for the Stars. So he's kind of like involved in this crap at this point. When the U.S. government released a much-anticipated report on UFOs a year ago, many were perplexed that it couldn't explain 143 of the 144 sightings it examined. The truth was still out there. So was any sense of who had conducted the analysis, because the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which released the study, provided no details about who had investigated the cases. Last week, however, a former Department of Defense astrophysicist and reality TV personality named Travis Taylor asserted that he was the chief scientist for the congressionally mandated study. The revelation shocked UFO skeptics in the science community. The Soyance community. They note that Taylor has made extraordinary claims during TV appearances, including to have seen more UFOs than I can count, and that he's been tracked by supernatural entities that caused his car and appliances to malfunction. I find it very difficult to believe. Federal authorities gave Taylor a prominent role in preparing the UFO report, says Seth Shostak, an astronomer at the SETI Institute who is familiar with Taylor's involvement with Ancient Aliens, a cable TV show that promotes far-fetched UFO narratives. Indeed, yeah, we are on the brink of a brand new far-fetched UFO narrative. So basically, either these things that they're taking pictures of, they're either our own technology or they're fake photos. I've even heard people suggest they're demonic somehow. There's a lot of interesting speculation about this stuff. In fact, Taylor did serve in a lead role with the government's Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, which produced 2021's Fuzzy UFO Report. Pentagon spokesperson Susan Go confirmed to Science Insider. But Taylor was informally referred to as the chief scientist as efforts to assemble a larger team were underway. and it was not a full-time position. Taylor did not respond to requests for comment. Taylor, according to his LinkedIn profile, has 5 advanced science degrees, including a PhD in optical physics and a PhD in aerospace and engineering. Watch out for those aerospace people. They glow in the dark a lot of the time. And is currently working on advanced propulsion concepts, very large space telescopes, space-based beam energy systems, and next-generation space launch concepts. He has published 2 academic textbooks and numerous peer-reviewed papers. Sounds like a traitor. In recent statements to George Knapp, a TV journalist in Las Vegas, Taylor said he was asked to be the government's lead scientist on UFOs in 2019 by Jay Stratton, who he counts as a longtime DoD colleague and friend. At the time, Taylor was with the U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command, where he was employed from 2007 until retiring 2 months ago. Stratton was based at the Office of Naval Intelligence before retiring recently. Both men now work for Radiance Technologies, a Huntsville, Alabama-based defense contractor. In addition to his TV work with Ancient Aliens, over the past 3 years, Taylor has starred in a show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. It takes place on a Utah ranch that claims to have a history of paranormal activity. Taylor told Knapp poltergeist-like entities from the ranch had followed him home to Alabama and caused mechanical mayhem. My car has started and stopped itself, Taylor said. Once after his car started in his driveway, Taylor said he looked up and there was an odd vortex in the clouds above my house. Sounds like bullshit. Taylor's critics are simply astonished by what they call his anti-scientific embrace of the supernatural and the Pentagon's willingness to work with him. I'm starting to see why the government's task force was so unsuccessful in identifying its UAPs, wrote Robert Schaefer, a UFO skeptic and author, on his blog. The news comes amid a surge of institutional interest in UFOs. Last month, NASA said it would fund a UFO pilot study, months after Congress ordered the Pentagon to stand up a UFO office and produce annual reports. Meanwhile, Avi Loeb, a well-regarded Harvard University astrophysicist, has raised millions of dollars for the Galileo project, which will scan the skies for UFOs. Loeb has drawn criticism for his willingness to work with zealous UFO believers. Last month, both Loeb and Taylor appeared together at a UFO disclosure symposium in Utah, where they reviewed and discussed various UFO videos. Ultimately, my friends, this is like some Bigfoot stuff. Like, this is like boomer Bigfoot stuff. Boomers are like, oh man, I know Bigfoot's out there. I know Bigfoot's out there. And then the news and government officials are like, you crazy boomers, there's no Bigfoot. Wink, wink. When really, of course there's no Bigfoot, because that's the missing link that would be required to prove that people evolved from apes. So it's this weird trick where they make people think that they don't want them to believe in Bigfoot, and then people are like, I swear the government's lying to us about Bigfoot. Same thing with aliens. Oh, you crazy boomers, there's no aliens out there. Wink, wink. It's like, I know there's aliens. I seen it. I seen a freaking flying saucer. When the reality is that it's a science fiction deception. We're going to get into Project Bluebeam here pretty soon, and they want us to believe in UFOs. That's why they got that show, Ancient Aliens. They want us to believe in ancient aliens. They're prepping us for basically a new age science fiction-esque religion, like a new age science religion of ancient astronauts and UFOs, and it very well may be leading up to some sort of a great alien deception. Let's check out this video. Hopefully it's not boring.
It's a privilege to be here with you today to address your questions regarding unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP. What are UAP? Put simply, UAP are airborne objects that, when encountered, cannot be immediately identified. However, it is the department's contention that by combining appropriately structured, collected data with rigorous scientific analysis, any object that we encounter can likely be isolated, characterized, identified, and if necessary, mitigated. With regard to the importance of transparency, the department is fully committed to the principle of openness and accountability to the American people. However, we are also mindful of our obligation to protect sensitive sources and methods. Our goal is to strike that delicate balance, one that enables us to maintain the public's trust.
Well, I was watching a video the other day. I believe I posted it on my feed. It was actually Flat Earth related, and there was an interview where someone was talking about how a military general told them not to look at these crafts. They told them to avoid looking at these crafts that they were picking up because he said, do you read the Bible? They're demonic. So that's just kind of some hearsay from around the internet. How could these crafts, I mean, they haven't like caught one and taken it apart and disassembled it. These are just things that we're seeing. So I don't know. That's just something that I heard somebody say. I'm not claiming I think they're demonic, but it's interesting to speculate about. I think it's likely fake. I think the footage they're producing is likely fake.
While preserving those capabilities that are vital to the support of our service personnel. In closing, the department is committed to this effort and welcomes the challenge. We thank you for your committed support and look forward to your questions.
Let me share with you the first video that we have here today, which shows an observation in real time.
Whoa!
There it was. That's, in many cases, that's all that a report may include. And in many other cases, we have far less than this. As we detailed in both the unclassified and classified versions of the preliminary assessment released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence last June, this often limited amount of high-quality data and reporting hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. As detailed in the ODNI report, if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they likely fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. government or U.S. industry developmental programs, foreign adversary systems, or a other bin that allows for a holding bin of difficult cases and for the possibility of surprise and potential scientific discovery. Let me show you a couple of another video and image taken years apart in different areas.
You know, I might make a video with some sort of like a introductory reading list for this kind of stuff, for like the alien deception. That's kind of tricky. I keep kind of telling everybody to start with, and this is a very intellectual place to start, but if you read Carol Quigley's Anglo Establishment, you can also watch Jay Dyer's videos on it. If you go to Jay Dyer's channel and watch his geopolitics playlist, his videos breaking down the Anglo Establishment, breaking down Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope. You can read the trilogy on Wall Street by Anthony C. Sutton. And Jay Dyer actually just made a video about that. Looks like he's getting ready to release a video series about that. That kind of breaks down the money powers that basically run the world. Milner Group, Time Magazine, J.P. Morgan, Rothschild, Rockefeller, that kind of stuff. We'll get back to that later. That's a tough question as far as like for UFOs and UFO deception.
In this video, U.S. Navy personnel recorded what appears to be triangles, some flashing, recorded several years ago, off the coast of the United States. This was recorded while the U.S. Navy ship observed a number of small unmanned aerial systems in the area. And importantly, the video was taken through night vision goggles with a single lens reflex camera. These remained unresolved for several years.
It's the Triforce. That looks like it could be a hologram for sure.
Of those 144, 18 of them reportedly appear to exhibit unusual flight characteristics, appear to demonstrate advanced technology, and some of them appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. That's pretty intriguing. And if you're able to answer this in this setting, are we aware of any foreign adversary capable of moving objects without any discernible means of propulsion?
I think I would, without discernible means of propulsion, I would say that we're not aware of any adversary that can move an object without discernible means of propulsion. The question then becomes, in many of these cases where we don't have a discernible mean of propulsion in the data that we have, in some cases there is likely sensor artifacts that may be hiding some of that. There's certainly some degree of something that looks like signature management that we have seen from some of these UAP, but I would caution. I would simply say that there are a number of events in which we do not have an explanation, and there are a small handful in which there are flight characteristics or signature management that we can't explain with the data that we have. We'll continue. Those are obviously the ones that are of most interest to us. Earlier, when we asked about how you avoid technological surprise, the biggest way you avoid technological surprise is by collecting this type of data and by, importantly, calibrating the assumptions that you go into with how you do that analysis. I'll tell you, within the UAP task force, we have one basic assumption, and that is that generally speaking, our sensors operate as designed. And we make that assumption because many times these are multi-sensor collections. We make no assumptions about the origin of this.
They would think it's black magic, which on some level kind of is. Rick refers to the H-bomb as invocation of the unknown. And a lot of people in my circles think that atom bombs are not real. More on that another time.
Or that there may or may not be some sort of technology that we don't understand. That's, I think, the key to avoiding technological surprises, by calibrating those assumptions.
It's also been reported that there have been UAP observed and interacting with and flying over sensitive military facilities, particularly, and not just ranges, but some facilities housing our strategic nuclear forces. One such incident allegedly occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base, in which 10 of our nuclear ICBMs were rendered inoperable. At the same time, a glowing red orb was observed overhead. I'm not commenting on the accuracy of this. I'm simply...
Well, you could look into direct energy weapons. That sounds like that would do the trick.
Asking you whether you're aware of it and whether you have any comment on the accuracy of that report.
Let me pass that to Mr. Bray. You've been looking at UAPs over the last 3 years.
That data is not within the holdings of the UAP task force.
Okay, but are you aware of the report, or that the data exists somewhere?
I have heard stories. I have not seen the official data on that.
So you've just seen informal stories, no official assessment that you've done or exists within DoD that you're aware of regarding the Malmstrom incident?
All I can speak to is what's within my cognizance of the UAP task force, and we have not looked at that incident.
Well, I would say, it's a pretty high-profile incident. I don't claim.
Interesting experience there, Playboy Cartier. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I don't feel like I've ever seen a UFO, but I know those sightings are out there. And all I would say about it is that when people see a UFO, it's like, whoa, little spacemen from outer space. And like if it lands, like a little round-headed alien Martian from outer space would come out. Cool. Like that's all from our understanding of that all comes from science fiction novels like H.G. Wells. When you really trace aliens back to their true origins, it does not go back to Sumeria. It's speculation to say that the Sumerian tablets are about ancient aliens. It comes from the minds of science fiction novelists and people like H.G. Wells. He's written books like What Things May Come. I can't remember the title of some of his books, but he basically wrote books about the New World Order, and those were bigwig, elite, globalist dudes. So if those UFOs are real, I'm just saying they don't come from outer space. Like, they come from this planet somehow, somewhere, whether or not it's our black ops technology or people are using projectors to fake them, or, yeah, I said before, maybe they're demonic. I don't have a lot of details on that, but they are something unknown to us. And to think they come from outer space, that really comes from the ideas of science fiction novelists.
Claim to be an expert on this, but that's out there in the ether. You're the guys investigating it. I mean, who else is doing it?
If something was officially brought to our attention, we would look at it. There are many things that are out there in the ether that aren't officially brought to our attention.
So how would it have to be officially brought?
I don't believe that there is a universe. I don't think there's any universe. I think we're being lied to about the existence of a universe. Flat Earth hype.
Brought to your
You'll see it
I'm
official.
bringing it to your attention.
Sure, so-
This is pretty official.
Sure. So we'll go back and take a look at it, but generally there is some...
Everything we've ever heard about aliens, what I just said, bro, it's all from science fiction novels. Like, there's no real history that involves aliens. Our ancestors talked about little people, dwarfs, goblins, elves. Like, as far as monsters, a really fascinating one is Mothman. Like, there were real documented sightings of the Mothman, and then they talk about the Men in Black. That's where the Men in Black story comes from. And I believe that was some sort of, like, those were spooks. The Men in Black were spooks because they were dealing with people who saw the Mothman. And I think that Mothman is basically just like a gargoyle. Like, there's some sort of winged humanoid creatures in existence. There's basically, I have reason to believe that there are creatures beyond our understanding in existence, but the idea that anything comes from space, it ain't happening, Captain.
Authoritative figure that says there is an incident that occurred. We'd like you to look at this. But in terms of...
The thing is like, yes, I do actually believe that, and I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. I mean, have you been to space? Has anybody you've ever met in your entire life been to space? Has anybody you've ever met in your entire life ever met anyone in their entire life who's been to space? You don't know anybody who's been to space. I don't know anybody who's been to space. Nobody I know knows anybody who's been to space. Like, there's no footage of space. Yeah, I just think it's CGI, and I think that NASA is evil, and I think most aerospace companies are evil. And all that money, $22 billion a year, goes to the CIA black budget, utilized for black ops projects and gang stalking. And yeah, man, it takes a little bit of time to let it sink in. But yeah, I think Stanley Kubrick's film 2001: A Space Odyssey, I believe it was before that movie came out, but yeah, Stanley Kubrick was pulled aside by the CIA military intelligence, and they had him fake the moon landing space footage. I mean, dude, have you watched the moon landing footage? Just do yourself a favor, bro. Before anybody goes all up on me about flat Earth, watch the moon landing footage and just think, does this look like some cheesy fake bullshit from a long time ago? It didn't hold up very well. And we can't go back to the moon, of course, because we lost the technology. And trust me, I understand that it's it takes a little bit of time. You're gonna have to spend some time with that one.
Just tracking what may be in the media that says that something occurred at this time, at this place. There are probably a lot of leads that we would have to follow up on. I don't think we have resource to do that right now.
Well, I don't claim to be an authoritative figure, but for what it's worth, I would like you to look into it. And
Sure.
if for no other reason, you could dismiss it and say this is not worth wasting resources on.
Will do.
And have we attempted to communicate with those objects?
Well, you can see stars, but the idea that those stars are billions of miles away in an infinite vacuum of space, basically you're seeing something that the explanation you've been given about what you're seeing is false. Those are celestial bodies in the firmament. It all comes back to the Bible. For anybody who doesn't know, I believe in the Bible. I believe the Bible is the Word of God. Other lies that would be told, like the idea that the universe is billions of years old, I don't believe in that. The Bible suggests there's some room for like a few thousand years to go missing in the Bible. So maybe Earth is like 15,000 years old, but basically Earth is about 7,000 years old. It's a flat and domed. There's like a dome. There's like a a dome that if you look up Operation Fishbowl, you can see footage of the government, our government, military firing missiles at the dome. They were trying to break it. And yeah, if you guys are just hearing this now, we might have to get to this later because it's distracted me from this video. It's a lot. It's a lot, guys. I was skeptical at first too, but when you just run with the idea that we're being lied to, and it's like the noble lie of Plato's Republic, opiate of the masses, allegory of the cave, the noble lie, Plato's Republic, baby. We're pretty much living in it.
No.
So we don't even put out a alert saying, U.S. Identify yourself. You are, within our flight path or something like that. We haven't said anything like that.
We've not put anything out like that. Generally speaking, for example, in the video that we showed earlier, it appears to be something that is, unmanned, appears to be something that may or may not be in controlled flight, and so we've not attempted any communication with that.
Okay, so, and I assume we've never discharged any armaments against a UAP, correct?
That's correct.
How about wreckage? Have we come across any
Plato's Republic for sure. Read the book Plato's Republic and then just go into it with the idea that that is the blueprint for the New World Order. I used to be an occultist before I was a Christian, and I was in some interesting circles. They told me that Plato was a part of like the proto-Illuminati type group, like an ancient philosopher king type group, and that his book Plato's Republic was basically their blueprint, and he got kicked out after writing that.
wreckage of any kind of object that has now been examined by you?
The UAP task force doesn't have any wreckage that isn't explainable, that isn't consistent with being of terrestrial origin.
Do we have any sensors underwater to detect on submerged UAPs? Anything that is in the ocean or in the seas?
So I think that would be more appropriately addressed in closed session, sir.
Okay. Basically, it sounds like we have a good partnership with FAA, but apart from FAA, we don't have partnerships with other agencies or other entities that might be tracking so that we could...
No, Plato didn't live in the jug. I'm brain farting him with that guy's name. I think he was one of the cynic philosophers.
Enlarge our data set to make comparisons.
So we will. So that's the goal of this next effort will be to expand that relationship with the rest of government and the interagency.
All right. With that, I want to thank you all for taking the time out. I also want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for participating in this very historical and important hearing. I think it's one of the few times we can demonstrate some degree of bipartisanship around UAPs and UFOs, so I love it. Appreciate it. Thank you. And we will see you all. We will recess this hearing for the moment and return in a closed session at noon.
Why can't I remember that guy's name, dude? Anyway. Aha. Diogenes. Okay. Yeah, they said that Alexander the Great stood in front of Diogenes' barrel and said, Diogenes, you're such a brilliant philosopher. I have such great respect for you. Is there anything that I, as king, can do for you? Is there anything that I can do to make you happy? I can give you anything you want. And he says, yes, please step out of the way of my view. And he just told him to get out of the way of the barrel. So what you should really take from this video here, guys, is that we're on the verge of our government giving us some sort of a breakdown on what these supposed UFO sightings are. And we're about to watch a BitChute video. We're going into real schizo territory on Project Bluebeam. And Project Bluebeam is the idea that our government would fake an alien invasion. They would fake an alien invasion, and the purpose of that would be to band the entire world together to basically kick off the New World Order or to make an excuse for some sort of an event. I mean, they could fake an alien invasion and then use that for Depop, like we're all being killed by aliens, like War of the Worlds, except it's really our own government in disguise. Some heavy stuff. What do we got in the comments here? The department is fully committed to the principle of openness and accountability. I laughed when he said this. They're committed to the principle of openness and accountability. That's great. My biggest takeaway from today is that most reports are explainable and some aren't. It's not us, and they definitely know more than they are telling us. So basically, what we already knew, but now it's official. Yeah, guys, as these kind of reports increase and expand, I mean, it just sure doesn't hurt to be prepped, man. It doesn't hurt to be prepped for shit to hit the fan, because when our government announces that aliens are real, or we've made contact, or they're about to break the news on some sort of a alien reality, means that maybe bad things are coming. I've heard people suggest that Project Bluebeam, they could even be using it to fake the second coming of Christ, but it could very well be tied in with the great Antichrist deception. It could have something to do with the coming of the Antichrist, guys. Like, they could say that aliens are here, and then they use projection technology, or they have like CERN. See, CERN utilizes accelerators, and my understanding of accelerators is that they're like old television sets. That's what Rick told me. So it could be like advanced projection, and they could project these creatures in a way where they might seem real. And it could be tied into some sort of new age explanation of the world. They try to create this grand deception to pass off this new age religion and to basically discredit the Bible fully. It's like, wow, here's this alien race, and then they explain something to us, like maybe like ancient aliens, like, yes, we are your creators. We are the ones spoken of in the Sumerian tablets. We created you. You're spliced from our genes. And then it's like, oh no, like the Bible's been disproven. Boy, I feel a little bit all over the place with this topic today, guys. It definitely took up plenty of time. We're able to like get plenty of content out of this, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's go ahead. This is like a conspiracy theory tier documentary, but a lot of our guys are conspiracy theories guys, and I know how it feels to try to believe in conspiracy theories. It's like, man, but you know, I went to college and they taught us that this is a big crock of shit. I will probably put together a reading list in a video, you guys, because the step-by-step, the process of understanding this is more or less you're going to have to be a Christian. A lot of people are like, well, I don't know about Christianity, but I like what you're teaching. The idea is that the West was the best, and it was dominated by Christians. It was like the Christian expenditure. It was the grand way of life on the earth. And the first kind of unified rule was the Roman Catholic Church after the fall of the Roman Empire. And, you know, in theory, there were some pretty good times during the Middle Ages. Like peace, not necessarily peaceful all the time, but a unified church, living under a unified church. By the time we got to the Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation, the Enlightenment represented the philosophy of the elite and the Illuminati. They say that Voltaire is kind of like one of the chief philosophers of the Illuminati. So the forces that would subvert the West and create this like philosopher king, Plato's Republic type of deal would be the Freemasons, Jesuits, the first order of the Catholic Church, the Royal Society, very important to study the Royal Society, and then just kind of like the Enlightenment philosophy, which everyone was starting to shift over to and was starting to uproot Christian roots. Then you study like Morals and Dogma from Albert Pike. He spoke of the 3 world wars. So with that understanding, you know that the world wars were basically agenda of the elite for Depop and to prep the world for the new way of life. And part of the new way of life was NASA and space exploration, birth of the CIA. And then as far as like before the moon landing, before NASA was in the picture, a lot of Jesuit astronomers, a lot of Jesuits were behind the heliocentric view of the universe. Early Freemasons, it was a requirement to be a part of Freemason lodges to accept the heliocentric universe well before it was popular. If you read The Invisible College by Robert Lomas, that's a book about the Royal Society, and that's in that book. He talks about the importance of the heliocentric universe in early Freemasonry. So that's the kind of picture that you're going to want to understand to see how we got here. It seems like even the most basic the most basic conspiracy people, they know something about the Freemasons. You've heard something about the Freemasons. You've heard something about Rothschild. Probably heard something about Rockefeller. There's little bits and pieces of the truth all over the place. See, people like Alex Jones are what you call heavy dope or even light dope. There's heavier dope than Alex Jones. They give you these pieces of the truth because they know the truth is out there. They know there's people trying to figure out this big picture, and they want to fuck it up. They want you to like hear something about the Freemasons and then hear, oh, they're in this they're extraterrestrial interdimensional beings who smoke DMT and live in a DMT world. It's really complex, guys. It's a little bit hard for me to like stay grounded while I'm going off on this, so maybe I'll get a reading list video going. Anyway, buckle up. Here we go. I'm open to guests. If you're somebody who thinks you'd be an interesting guest, hit me up on my Discord. Is this loud?
In the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan gave a series of speeches basically saying that people of the Earth would unite if faced by an out-of-this-world alien threat.
I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other...
You don't have to think that the Earth is flat to be a Christian. That's fine. Like, it doesn't... Christianity doesn't rely on flat Earth. And it's not necessarily super important to me. I know it's hard for people to grasp, or it's something that just is too far out there. My channel's not really about flat Earth. I'm not constantly trying to convince people of flat Earth. We don't cover that topic a lot here. But I believe it with all of my heart, you guys. All it really comes down to is that our government is lying to us. And that's part of power. That's part of how power is created, man. They don't want us to know the truth. They're keeping truths of the earth hidden from us. Yeah. Anyway.
Other species from another planet outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
At the time, nobody knew exactly what he meant, but they thought that he meant well. It wasn't until the 1990s when George H.W. Bush started to push the New World Order to the public that people began to understand the unity that Ronald Reagan spoke about.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves.
Okay, let me give you some additional red pills. George Bush Sr., he was former director of CIA and he was Skull and Bones. Now, those are real, like, Anthony C. Sutton, I recommended his trilogy on Wall Street for understanding this, like, economic force that funded communism and Hitler and FDR. Anthony C. Sutton also wrote a book about the Skull and Bones, which is at not Harvard, but Yale. And that is a real elite deal. That's a real elite secret society. I want to say, what was it, Henry Luce? I can't remember if his first name was Henry, but the CEO of Time Magazine. CEO of Time Magazine was a Skull and Bones. And he was also CIA. CIA, CEO of Time Magazine, Skull and Bones, George Bush, President, Skull and Bones, Director of CIA. CIA is basically like the Illuminati. What people refer to as the Illuminati, or the way that people talk about the Illuminati, it might as well be the CIA. They're like a super modern secret society. It's built into our Constitution for them to just do whatever the fuck they want, basically. It's built into the law. They're not really accountable to anyone.
And for future generations, a new world order. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order. It is a big idea, a new world order. Such is a world worthy of our children's future. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. And that's why I wanted to speak to you today about the new world taking shape around us, about the prospects for a new world order now within.
And a little bit about the new world order. It's going to be technocratic, technology, Metaverse is kind of related. All of these topics today are kind of related. We're going to finish off with a little bit about the Antichrist. We're doing Project Bluebeam, Metaverse. New World Order is technocratic, one world government. There will be a coming Antichrist religion, which will likely be in the form of like New Age. You're already seeing it in science. The hard atheist, we're just here accidentally. There's no meaning behind anything. There's no sort of spiritual energy or God. You're already seeing in scientific communities that view is kind of starting to be pushed out with this new quantum mechanics. Atoms are popping in and out of existence. If you saw that documentary, like What the Bleep Do We Know, from way back in the 2000s, there is a new age scientific quantum mechanics kind of like a luminist religion that's lurking in academia. So you still got a lot of hard atheists in academia, but you're starting to see the rise of this like energetic scientism religion. And that's just a little bit about what the New World Order's got coming for us, guys. And yeah, the Bible speaks of a beast system and a rising power. And when they're talking about like the mark of the beast, you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade without it. That sounds to me like it's going to be like a digital world where we're in smart cities and, everything's purchased through VR apps. And if you don't have your little key code thing, then, you're out of luck.
Our reach. I'll be talking in some detail about the possibility of a new world order, the quest for the new world order. New world order. The new world order really is a tool for addressing a new world of possibilities.
It wasn't exactly the kind of unity that would benefit the masses, but the elite, as they would have us.
I have some interesting things to say about Pizzagate. One of the companies that popped up in a Pizzagate documentary kind of popped up in my life, I guess you could say. More on that another time. I'm all over the place today, guys. I'm starting to sound like a real conspiracy theorist today. We try to stay really like scholarly and academic around here. I'm always trying to cite sources and sound like I'm saying things that suggest an alternative worldview, but I try to make it sound as scholarly as possible. We're just kind of throwing it all out there today, so take it or leave it. Hopefully you take it, though. It's the red pill.
United under the control of a one-world government, a one-world religion, a one-world everything. So we have a solid connection between the New World Order and an alien invasion, especially since George H.W. Bush was vice president to Reagan and his successor. It even goes in order. Alien invasion, New World Order. Alien invasion, New World Order.
If suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Let's fast forward to more recent events where we are seeing the alien agenda escalate more than ever.
I want to ask you about your access to the files on the UFOs. Okay? President Clinton is here with us. We'll be right back. President Bill Clinton is here with us. So if I was president, and I won't be, let's be honest, the first thing I would do after putting my hand on that Bible and taking that oath to serve the country is I wouldn't even probably finish the oath. I would.
Good. We got it. We got it. We got it. We're good. We're good. I think we're okay. I think we're okay. Holy shit. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. Wow. It's a miracle that the fucking podcast didn't go down. Sorry for anybody who left. Let's just keep going. Sorry. That sucked.
Papers, reviewed, everything. Well, I think, look, what do we know? We know now we live in an ever-expanding universe. We know that there are billions of stars and planets literally out there, and the universe is getting bigger. We know from our fancy telescopes.
Everything he just said is a lie. Everything he just said is a lie. There's not. We don't live in an infinite expanding universe.
That just in the last 2 years, more than 20 planets have been identified outside our solar system that seem to be far enough away from their suns and dense enough that they might be able to support some form of life. So it makes it increasingly less likely that they might be able to support some form of life. So it makes it increasingly less likely that we're alone.
Oh, you're trying to give me a hint that there are aliens.
No, I'm trying to tell you I don't know.
Oh, you're trying to give me a hint that there are aliens.
No, I'm trying to tell you I don't know.
Oh.
But if we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised. I just hope that it's not like Independence Day.
Yeah, right.
That it's a conflict.
Well, now we have friendly
Maybe the only way to unite this incredibly divided world of ours. They're out there. We better think of how all the differences among people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right.
Everybody gets together and makes nice and,
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat.
2015, Barack Obama talks about aliens on Jimmy Kimmel.
This is something I feel like if I was the president, and it's unlikely that that is ever going to happen.
You never know.
If I was the president...
It was unlikely that I was going to be president.
The moment I was inaugurated, my hand would it'd still be hot from touching the Bible, and I would immediately race to wherever they have the files about Area 51 and the UFOs, and I'd go through everything to find out what happened.
Right.
Did you do that?
That's why you will not be president. Because that's the first thing that you would do. The aliens won't let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
Now, there are a lot of people that are going to examine your facial expressions here, every twitch, everything, and say, and of course, so did you look? Did you see? Did you explore?
I can't reveal anything.
Oh, really? Because President Clinton said he did go right in, and he did check, and there was nothing.
Well, that's what we're instructed to say.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment. His hand would be hot from touching the Bible, like it's burning his skin.
All right.
2016, Hillary Clinton talks about aliens on Jimmy Kimmel.
When we had your husband, President Clinton, on this show, he said, I asked him about UFOs and Area 51, and if he looked in, because if I was president, that's the first thing I do. I go right into those files and see what was going on.
Right.
And he said that he did do that.
Yes.
And that he didn't find anything.
Well, I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, why not?
Right? And you know, there's a new name. It's unexplained aerial phenomenon.
Unexplained aerial phenomenon, really?
Yep, UAP. That's the latest nomenclature.
I like the old one. I like UFO. I don't know why.
Well, I think we can use them interchangeably, but I would like us to go into those files and hopefully make as much of that public as possible. If there's nothing there, let's tell people there's nothing there.
What if there is something there?
Well, if there is something there, unless it's a threat to national security, I think we ought to share it with the public.
Well, what if everybody's all hopped up on medical marijuana and everybody gets paranoid? I would love it.
That's why I want more research.
If you share it with me, I'll decide what is the best course of action. I really have my ear to the ground.
Well, I'm more than happy to do that.
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
So you see, what used to pass for a tinfoil hat theory is now being pushed by the mainstream and accepted on a wide scale. In fact, the popular theoretical physicist Michio Kaku seems to be a pawn for programming the masses with the belief in aliens.
A crisis of leadership. We've been talking about this all week. But what if there was some sort of outer space crisis? An alien invasion sounds crazy, perhaps, but then who thought we'd ever see the stock market swing 5% a day all week long? So maybe it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. If aliens invaded, who would step up to lead us in that fight, and could we even win? That's just one of the questions the Discovery Channel's new series, Curiosity, looks at. Joining me now is physics professor Michio Kaku, who is a consultant for the series. Professor, welcome. The biggest question before we get any invasion is, do aliens even exist, and how would we know?
Well, the Kepler satellite currently...
Now, just to get a little bit more of my thoughts on this is them presenting the alternative view that they want us to have. It's like, maybe there's aliens out there, and this is all over television. It's all over the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, talk shows. You notice how there's no shows that like, is the Bible 100% real? And modern academia and science has posited fake history to make us forget about our real biblical history. Is the earth flat? Is space fake? Are we being lied to about things like the age of the earth? Is Darwinism a fabrication? Like, you notice how that's not talked about on the news, and that's not something they want bouncing around in your head, because that is the real alternative view, and that is reality as far as I know. I'm not shoving it down your throat, but that's the real deal. And it's like, oh, you wacko conspiracy theorists with your Bigfoot, you're wacko conspiracy theorists with your aliens. That's secretly what they want us to believe, because they very well may be prepping us for the alien grand deception.
currently orbiting in outer space has identified about 50 planets that seem very much Earth-like. In fact, every week we discover another Jupiter-sized planet in outer space. Now, to be sure, most of them probably have no more than microbial life, just germs. But a few of them may have intelligent life, perhaps even more advanced than what we have on Earth.
Now, so how did this, how does this actually work? When Discovery decided they were going to do a show on alien invasions, your phone rings because you're on the sort of speed dial for theoretical physicists who can help them do the war game for how this might play out?
Well, believe it or not, we physicists have actually studied the question of what happens if we do encounter a hostile advanced civilization in space.
Open your mind to the possibility that one day we will make contact with an intelligent civilization in outer space that could be thousands, millions of years ahead of us in technology.
The Kepler satellite has identified 2,000 planets orbiting other star systems. So tonight, when you look at the night sky, realize that somebody could be looking back at you. Now, if there is a life form out there, they could be literally millions of years ahead of us.
The universe is 13.7 billion years old, so 1 million years is nothing compared to the age of the universe. I mean, we have nothing to offer them.
Are we going to get answers in our lifetime about this?
Well, next we're going to focus our radio telescope to see whether we can eavesdrop on their I Love Lucy. Maybe they too have, Leave It to Beaver and TV shows like that. So we're going to focus our radio efforts now on this star to see whether there's any regular radio emissions from that planet.
Oh, it's so exciting. Mitchio, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The big question of, do you think there's intelligent life elsewhere out there? Do you think there is? And if there is, do you think it's visited us before?
Well, the big question is there intelligent life on the Earth? And I think not, by looking at the presidential debates. However, we have to look at the fact that just this week, NASA released the fact that 1,200 planets were discovered by the Kepler satellite just this past week.
We always learned in school that there were 9 planets if you wanted to include Pluto.
Yes, if you did or if you didn't want to. But with all the newfangled telescopes out there and in space, the discoveries seem to keep coming. So Linda Schmidt tells us about NASA's biggest haul yet.
NASA's Kepler Space Telescope has made a groundbreaking discovery: 1,284 new planets. This NASA animation shows that it is the single largest collection of planets that have ever been found.
I think it's really exciting to find that when you look up in the star, at the stars at night, many of those stars have planets just like our solar system. And now we know that for sure.
And so we now know that perhaps there are 1 billion Earth.
So why would they lie about space? Why are they lying to us about this? It's just a big waste of time, guys. I wonder what's out there. Wow, we might live on Mars someday. The Mars rover just found this. There's billions of stars. We just found a new galaxy. Our galaxy's moving through space at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. There's another collapsed star, black holes, Betelgeuse, collapsed stars, supernovas. It's all just a big waste of time. You want to be a real intellectual, you learn history, right? You want to learn history, you want to learn philosophy, you want to learn theology, language. It's a waste of time. Space is a waste of time, bro. It's never going to improve your life.
Earth-like planets in our backyard, the Milky Way galaxy. Go out tonight and have an existential shock, looking at the night sky, realizing that there are probably 1 billion planets that are Earth-like.
I think I only had to memorize 8 of them in school. I think I got off easy.
And to think that we're the only game in town, I think, is kind of presumptuous.
But that question, though, the idea that there is intelligent life and it's been here, do you think we've been visited by extraterrestrial intelligent life?
First of all, I think they're out there, okay?
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
Whenever a mainstream scientist says anything about anything, there are millions upon millions of people willing to form their belief system around the statements of that scientist. So here we are in 2016, and when you look at any online poll as to whether aliens exist or not, the belief in even though what we call outer space is not what we think it is, and we have never been to the moon or past low Earth orbit for that matter, NASA admits this on numerous occasions while you're not even paying attention.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion...
See, the Van Allen belt, which separates lower orbit from outer orbit, is really the dome. The Van Allen belt is the dome, and there's not really any passing it. So that's just what I think. If I find better information, I'm open to it. But yeah, I think I see what it's all about, guys. A grand noble lie.
It has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
So this leads me to flat Earth, and why, if we knew the Earth is flat and enclosed by an impenetrable barrier, Project Bluebeam would not work. If we all
based alert
understood the truth about where we live, most likely the belief in aliens would be very rare. But since they lie to us and would have us believe that there are billions of galaxies and billions of other planets, the belief in intelligent extraterrestrial life becomes the norm. Not only that, though, outer space and alien programming have been underway for quite some time. From a trip to the moon in 1901 to 10 Cloverfield Lane in 2016. The Tavistock Institute and Hollywood have been hard at work trying to introduce the masses to new ideas and manufacture our opinions. They've done a great job. We went from knowing that aliens don't exist to believing in aliens 100% without a shred of evidence. UFOs, on the other hand, are very real, unidentified flying objects. But all it is suppressed top-secret government and military technology. They will utilize these top-secret crafts to trick us into believing in an alien threat. They will also use holographic projections and something like the silent subliminal
Yeah, and when we're talking about holographic projections, this is where Rick's explanation of accelerators come in. CERN uses accelerator technology. Our government is... There's articles we'll have to do a show on accelerators at some point. There's articles talking about all of this money that's been spent on accelerator technology. It's like an old television set. It's for projections. So they're likely creating some sort of a machine that can create very lifelike projections that would be overwhelming, and sound would be involved. The sounds would be overwhelming, the projections would be overwhelming, and they could even use the dome as some sort of a projector screen. So buckle up, boyos. I know. Space, but NASA, we went to space, America. I'm probably going to have to start doing some more research on flat Earth myself, because when it comes to that topic, I assure you that's what I believe. Everybody wants to see the scientific explanations, and they want to be like, if you're going south down the Nile River and I'm looking at the stars, and bro, I just don't know. For me, it's a philosophical thing. It's like I understand why they would lie about this. Take it or leave it, baby. You can still learn things from me in this place and the gang without buying onto flat Earth, but man, it's pretty sure it's the real deal, guys.
Presentation system that can beam voices into our heads, which has already been patented for years now. Look it up. While you're at it, look at hologram technology that's already been used to show Michael Jackson on stage and even Tupac performing as well. One last note, pay attention to the timing of alien programming. For instance, Hillary talking about aliens on talk shows and promising to disclose classified information about extraterrestrial.
So he said earlier that this video is from 2016, so this is quite some time ago. It's been 6 years.
When in office, and the release of Independence Day 2. The timing of these things says a lot in itself. This has been ODD TV. Thanks for watching.
Or I think this was from 2016. At one point, there was at least a clip that said something about 2016, but I don't know. When did the new Independence Day movie come out? Alrighty, gang. We got one more article and one more video. How long is this last video? All right. We're going to wrap it up here. We're not going to dilly-dally too much more. So, what is Project Bluebeam? Surge Monists conspiracy theory resurges. Okay, so that video was like on one polar end where it's like talking to us like all of that stuff is real. This article is calling it a conspiracy theory. So we got well-balanced sources. These people are going to break down Project Bluebeam, but it sounds like it's from a source. Soy! All right. The theory, which rests on various claims about NASA, the UN, and a so-called New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head, has made a resurgence in recent times. The Poynter Institute noted last year that the New World Order conspiracy theory came to the fore during the pandemic caused by COVID-19. Note, it also describes the theory as categorically false. Well, there you go. It's been coming up a lot on Twitter recently, too, in response to a wide range of stimuli, holographic projections, weird weather patterns, etc. So what's it all about? By the way, Star Trek is like kind of gives you a good idea of the technocratic New World Order. The Federation in Star Trek goes around the universe like enforcing the New World Order, basically. They're bringing everyone into the Federation. They're like the ground troops of the New World Order, bringing everyone into this technocratic, space-exploring age of equality and basically technocratic socialism. Jay Dyer breaks that down, too. What is Project Bluebeam? Project Bluebeam is, or was, the brainchild of Canadian investigative journalist, poet, and essayist Serge Monast. He died on the 5th of December 1996 at the age of 51. He spent much of his life as an active member of the Social Credit Party of Canada and started writing about New World Order conspiracy theories in the early 1990s. His Project Bluebeam idea first came to light in 1994. Find his original essay on Educate Yourself here. He also talked about it at length in an interview with the International Free Press Network that year. Our task, he says, is to make the people realize the coming of the New World Order is not a dream, neither a paranoid thought. It is a real satanic undergoing project. It has 4 key goals, he says. The first is to abolish all Christian traditional religions in favor of a single religion based on the cult of man. Second is to abolish all national identity and national pride in favor of world identity and world pride. Third is to abolish the family as known today and replace it by individuals all working for the glory of one world government. Again, Plato's Republic. Plato suggests that the children should basically be taken away from the parents when they're born. So instead of being raised by your family, you're just raised by the government. And I would suggest that the latchkey kid millennials in the 90s model, like your parents are always at work, you come home from school to an empty house, you turn on the television is filled up with liberal Freemasonic propaganda. We're basically secretly are raised by the government. We go to government schools, you come home, you turn on your television, you listen to your music filled with subversive messaging. Yeah, Plato's Republic, once again. Children are raised by the state. Finally, Serge Monast claims Project Bluebeam, which is supposed to be a collaborative effort between NASA and the UN, wants to destroy all individual artistic and scientific creative works. I don't believe in space because there's no reason to. Our government has already been proven to be liars many, many, many times. I've never been there. I think all the space footage looks fake. I think it looks like stupid CGI. I have absolutely not the slightest reason to believe in space. NASA is absolutely robbing us blind of $22 billion a year. So you can be like, oh, did you hear what the Mars rover did today? Was that worth the money? Is it really worth $22 billion so you can read click bits about the Mars rover? How is the Mars rover improving your life? How is NASA improving your life? How's that $22 billion a year improving your life? What's the first thing they said when they were in space? I see no God up here. Sorry, buddy. We're shutting it down. What has the theory got to do with green skies, strange clouds, and holographic projections? One of the key tenets of the Project Blue Beam conspiracy theory is that NASA and the United Nations want to implement a new age religion and start a new world order via a technologically simulated second coming of Christ. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be either or. And I feel my personal prediction is that they're not going to fake a second coming of Christ because they want to turn us away from the Christian religion. So it would be more like a new age alien arrival where these alien beings start describing the reality of the universe to us, and they try to make it seem like Christianity is being disproven by our alien creators. The second coming, according to the theory, will prompt a religious revolution. The contexts in which Project Blue Beam has come up in recent days on Twitter, for example, include a video of an apparently strange cloud formation, photos of green skies over South Dakota, and holographic projections of sea creatures at an event in late June. Mars rover. It's worth noting that someone might have digitally edited the weather images to make them more sensational, but the idea linking the posts is that these occurrences hint at what NASA or corporations in general are capable of when it comes to creating convincing illusions. People often bring up Project Blue Beam, one conspiracy theory blogger notes, to explain aerial anomalies. Others have noted similarities between monist ideas and Star Trek. Conspiracy theory blogger Secret Sun published a post in 2010 entitled Project Blue Beam Exposed. In it, they compare some of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry's ideas, penned in the 1970s, with elements from Serge Monast's Project Blue Beam theory. It is on this basis, Secret Sun writes, 2 of Monast's Blue Beam claims were taken straight out of the Star Trek script. Of course, the ideas may have come to Monast organically just 20 years after Roddenberry thought of them. You know, if any of you have happened to have seen Star Trek, I'm sure it's like chock full of predictive programming. It would probably be worth me watching it. I just feel like I kind of wish that I already saw it because I feel like I don't give a shit. But yeah, Star Trek is an interesting concept, very relevant to the New World Order. But there are other examples of crossover too. Read more on Secret Sun's website. Interestingly, some have posited Mel Gibson's character in 1997 film Conspiracy Theory was modeled on Serge Monast. If you haven't seen that, Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, it's mind-blowing, dude. Evangelical preacher Tex Mars has developed some of his ideas. Find his writing here. All right, guys. Well, I'm kind of just speeding through this last section here. We got one more video, and I'm going to go buy some weed because the world is a harsh place.
God in His Word has given us not all the details of how this is going to unfold, but the fact that there will be an end to the world as we know it. Hollywood really gives us constant apocalyptic imagery where you have good versus evil battling it out, but the Bible gives us God's authoritative word about where society is headed, where the world is headed, and how Christ really will come one day to bring peace on earth.
I think the challenge with prophecy is that a lot of it is understood in the rearview mirror. So sometimes we think we know
Childhood's End. I'll have to look into that.
What the Bible means, but then when it happens, we go, oh, you know, and the best example of that is Jesus. When he came to earth, a lot of the Jews missed him, even though the Bible very clearly talks about his death, talks about everything that happened to him, but they missed it because we have an idea in our mind what it means.
Absolutely, and I think part of the reason is understandable because there's so much about Jesus' second coming in Old Testament prophecy about his coming, but there's no separation. You can look at a passage like Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, and in those 2 verses, it goes from the birth of Jesus in his first coming to what it's going to be like when he comes again. But there's no differentiation with the Old Testament prophet because they were just uttering the words of God as the Holy Spirit put that on their heart. And I think that we understand today more than Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Daniel understood because we've seen so much unfolding prophecy lived out and experienced in world history, especially with the coming of Christ for his first time.
Okay, so we talked about, different people, different interpretations, and almost the intimidation, like the difficulty factor of knowing what it's going to say. But you say there are some things that are clear no matter, like people of all interpretations kind of agree on some basics. What are the things that we can expect?
Well, the basics are Christ is coming again, and he's very clear about that. If a viewer would like to study in Matthew 24 and 25, they can see the words of Jesus about his second coming. But also the scriptures are very clear in the Old and New Covenant about an Antichrist, an opposite of Christ, that will be a world leader, that will appear to be a man of great peace, wanting to bring unity to the world. But he will be like the Antichrist type figures all through history, whether it's Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, whether it's Alexander the Great, whether it's the Caesars of Rome, whether it's Adolf Hitler in modern history, men who want to bring unity but around themselves. And you see the biblical prophecy being very clear about the Antichrist preceding the coming of Christ. He is the opposite of Christ. He's all about himself. He will be the devil incarnate, like Christ is God incarnate, God in the flesh.
But he'll have incredible charisma, and the evil will not be easy to see. And I think, where we've lost credibility, I think, as people of faith, as Christians and followers of Jesus, it has been people pointing out, oh, he's the Antichrist, oh, he's the Antichrist. And then as well, I think all this, kind of like Jesus is coming on Friday, right? And then everyone sells all their possessions or whatever, and then he doesn't come on Friday. Like, how do we deal with kind of the element, of no credibility that goes around this stuff?
Well, for one thing, when anybody tells you a date when Christ is coming again, just know they're a false prophet, because Jesus is very clear in his teaching in Matthew 24 that no one knows the time or date, only the Father in heaven. So anyone who follows someone that gives you a specific time, they're following a false prophet. No one knows that. But we can know clear progression of events that Scripture is talking about leading up to the second coming of Christ. Even though right now we don't know the identity of the Antichrist, we know he will lead a one-world governance. He'll appear to be a man of peace, and obviously he'll be drawn to the Middle East. Think about how every American president wants to bring peace to the Middle East, and yet it winds up just going nowhere. Well, that will certainly be a desire of the Antichrist, because if you can bring peace to the Middle East, man, that will be the ultimate coup in all of history. And for a time it will appear to be that way, and then all hell will break loose.
When you think about all of this, the Bible, when the Bible talks about the end times, it's not a great picture of what it paints, and it's
it
very
gets worse before it gets better.
And things are tumultuous now. People just I have a lot of friends who don't even watch the news because they're like, it's just too awful,
so depressing.
And then the Bible's saying, oh, it's going to get way worse. This is nothing, Right. So that just puts fear in my heart. I'm sure for a lot of people, it's kind of like it's too negative. I don't want to go there. That's scary. How do we face the times that are coming without fear? How do we have faith as we learn about these things?
Well, I think for one, we are called to stay close to God and to realize that the greatest calling Christ had when he came was to save us from our sin, to save us from death, to give us a way to be forgiven by God so that we could be right by God, right with God. So I think that's the big thing. But also Jesus talked about birth pains. And even though as a man I've never experienced birth pains, my wife has helped me to understand a bit that with birth pains, they're very mild initially, and they're erratic in when they come, but they intensify and become more regular the closer to the birth of the baby. Obviously, giving birth for a woman is a very difficult experience, and yet once she has given birth, the joy of that child and the beauty of bringing life and new life into the world allows her to quickly forget the pain of childbirth. Well, that's an analogy Jesus has given us, that things will get worse and it'll back off a while. Things will get worse and it'll back off, and it'll become more and more intense the closer we come to his second coming. But when he comes, and there is judgment on evil, and there is peace on earth, there's going to be tremendous joy that all of us can anticipate. So you don't want to miss out on that. You want to be sure that you're right with Jesus Christ now, so that whenever that event occurs, you'll be ready.
How do I know that? How do people watching know that even if they go through this time and if they die, or making it to when Jesus comes back, whatever happens at the end of these times, how can I know that I'm going to be secure in Christ, that God will be with me and that I will be with him?
Well, the only way we can know for sure is when we have enough integrity to admit that we don't have it all together, that we fall short, and God is very clear, even though this is a standard that just blows people's minds, but the only way we can be good enough to go to heaven is to be perfect. Well, none of us do that. I sure can't do that. The only person who has done that is Jesus Christ. And because Christ, the only perfect one, the perfect sacrifice, gave his life to pay the penalty of God's judgment on sin, which is death, he died in our place. And when we come to have enough integrity to admit that we fall short and we need God's forgiveness and claim the forgiveness that is offered in Jesus Christ, where we literally entrust our life, our heart, our soul to him, then God forgives us. And he makes us new, and he begins a transformation process from within. And that is where you know you're ready for whether he comes when you're alive
What up,
or whether
Palestine?
when you die, you're with him in heaven. And that's something anyone can know. Any listener here today can be sure of their salvation and eternal life in Christ.
What you said is the most important thing.
That's-
And that gives us the courage to face things, because this life is not the end.
It does. And at the same time, I think it's very encouraging to be able to see how the Old and New Testament of Scripture give us all kind of insight to where we can read the newspaper today and we can see world events and we can know that God is sovereign. He's over all of this, and we are headed to a certain direction. And when you recognize that, you read the newspaper differently as you read the Bible differently, knowing that one day Christ is coming again to make all this right. Because let's face it, all of us look at the world around us and we say, things just aren't as we'd love them to be. That's the longing man has for what only Jesus Christ can satisfy. And it will be satisfied when he comes again.
Yeah, guys, quite a hefty amount to unpack today. That is most definitely the end of our show. But yeah, I mean, in terms of explaining how Western history played out, the pinnacle of Western society was faith in Jesus Christ and the Christian religion. That was the guiding light that created the greatest way of life, and the greatest way of life attracted a very powerful enemy, which was the Freemasonic lodges, the Royal Society, the mercantile class, the billionaire class that would manifest in the form of Rothschild, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, eventually the Bilderberg Group, the Cliveden set, the Milner Group, the Anglo establishment. These fraternal order powers, military intelligence, CIA, NSA, there are aspects of the principalities and high places that the Bible speaks of, for we do not battle against, our battle is not with flesh, but with principalities. You need to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, my friends. Read the story of the Gospels. Read the story of Christ. Understand that he truly lived. Understand that the Old Testament is, in fact, documented history. The people that have tried to make you lose faith in the Bible are not good people. More on that later. Base Truther, I will look on your YouTube. Get on my Discord. Leave some links in the Discord. Leave a comment on one of my videos so I can easily get to your channel, but I'll be able to find Base Truther. But yeah, go ahead and leave a comment on my latest video and or get in my Discord and leave some links. All right, my friends. Well, that's 2 hours for today. We lost our momentum a little bit because my family was visiting, but we're going to go ahead and do another one tomorrow, and then we'll be back on Monday after that. We're back in the podcast type, boyos. Podcasts. Let's go. Thank you for being here, my friends. I'm sorry about the connection. I have a feeling that's not going to happen next time. We got this. God bless you, my friends. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.